Hello everyone and welcome to One Autistic Person. This is the 6th video in the 50 video series that I'm planning that is looking to delve into the questions of the Autism Quotient questionnaire. As the criteria for autism to be given a diagnosis for autism requires the assessment to look at things as a deficit. With these videos, what I'm trying to do is look at whether there's benefits actually when we're looking at what is seen as a deficit within the assessment process, to just make it so that we're kind of looking at things in a positive way rather than the negative way that we have to get a diagnosis. Or if there isn't a way of really looking at it positively, what we can do to mitigate that issue. So for me, these are all about looking at things in a positive way when we have to look at things in a negative way in relation to diagnosis and getting the support that we need. Obviously, things need to be seen as a deficit for us to be able to get the support that we need. And I'm not denying that they are deficits. My point is to look at things as it's never as simple as it just being this thing's a deficit. There could be a positive from any deficit that's there if we focus on how we can use it positively. So this is question 6, like I say. These are all the questions that are on the Autism Quotient. So the 6th one is, I usually notice car number plates or similar strings of information. Yep, definitely on the car number plate side of things, they've always fascinated me. I can't give you an answer of why. I don't know what makes me fascinated by them. I think now that you have the year in the middle, I kind of have worked that out while I was doing a much longer video around all the questions on the Autism Quotient, that maybe my enjoyment of dates, I'm not going to say obsession or anything like that because it's not really an obsession, but it's certainly an enjoyment of dates, that might be linked to it because I'm working out what year that car was manufactured or imported, or so that might be what I'm doing there. But I like to look at similarities between cars. So it's like I like there are certain the end bits and the beginning bits that you see quite often, and there's some that you see less often. So that's an interesting thing for me to look at. So yeah, I think I'm breaking that information down a little bit. I do like now looking back on when it used to be letter based, the first letter on a number plate. I love trying to work out what that was, working back from what I know from the start of the numbers in the numbers in the middle of the number plate number. So I try to do that. So there's also there's this little bit of sort of trying to work things out. So that's quite fun. I mean, it's very rare now that you see any older cars that have really got those number plates, but when I do, I like to do that working out. So yeah, there is a fascination there for me. I can sometimes quite often when I'm driving on the motorway and it's slow, my brain will automatically go to the game that you play. Many of us played as a kid, where you make words out of number plates. I really enjoy doing that. And I kind of automatically go to that as well. If there's letters that are quite easy to make into a word, I'll still do. My brain will automatically go back to that. But I don't know whether that's just a going back to a nostalgic thing from being a kid, or whether it's an autistic thing. I'm not sure. So yeah, other strings of information. So anything that has a pattern in it is interesting to me, and anything that I can theorize about. So I like to look for things. If there's not an answer to something, I like to use information to be able to come to that conclusion. And I don't just mean with numbers. Sometimes that's with situations like watching a TV show. I love to theorize about things, and even after a TV show's finished, I will look at all of the information and theorize what would have happened afterwards. Anything that's left open to interpretation, I will look for strings of information for me to then put together and come up with a solution, conclusion, moving forward of things. And quite often when a TV show's finished, I will have come up with a whole, this is what happened afterwards, based on the knowledge that I have about it already. So I think that kind of falls into this. It's not quite the same, but it does kind of fall into this for me. But yeah, numerically, I love looking at strings of numbers. I am very mathematically minded. As I've said in previous videos, I can be quite stereotypically male autistic profile that you would have expected years ago. So my autism can be quite stereotypical at times, especially when it comes to anything to do with numbers. So things like IQ tests, that would be looking at strings of information. It takes me forever quite often to do an IQ test. I can't do it in the restricted time that people want me to, but I will. I do enjoy that, looking for the patterns in things. So again, this is saying strings of information. I think also seeing patterns in information, seeing patterns within mathematics is something that really intrigues me. And I think that's why I enjoy physics as a subject to study, because I think that's giving you strings of information. And I think that's why and I mentioned this in a previous video, is why maybe I get asked to do investigations quite often, because I can see things that maybe links to things that other people might not see, and will go down a route of questioning that maybe other people wouldn't go down. So if I'm doing an investigation at work, I quite often will really delve into things that maybe other people don't. So I might see something in a photograph and question more about that photograph, whereas other people haven't. And this has happened a few times where I've been part of an investigation and I've always pushed forward, maybe asking questions about other things. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find something wrong with with what that person's done. It might actually exonerate them from a situation, and things can get missed quite easily if things aren't thoroughly investigated. And I think that is looking for strings of information as well. I can hold lots of bits of information in my head at one time. Going back to what I said about the way I think and it being statements within spider diagrams, that kind of does mean that you're putting strings of information together. So I think that means in the world I notice those strings of information as well, and I think it's why I really like poetry, because that's kind of strings of information. So yeah, I think this is quite a broad one. I think it's a positive because I think it allows you to see things that people might not be able to see, that people are not necessarily going to think. I think this is very much it's a very loosely, now I'm talking more about thinking about things in a more complex way and being able to see things in a different way, because you're not constrained by things that are already set there, or that people's expectations are there. So if somebody's expecting something, they might only see something or miss something that they didn't really think was going to be part of something. Whereas this, I think that's what this is kind of getting at, as well as there are some other questions in the Autism Quotient that would fall under that. I think this is another one that falls into that, and it's a much deeper question than it seems on first evaluation. And actually, I'd see this as wholly positive. It's never a negative for me, this one, because me noticing more information, yes, it might take more time for me to do something, and it might take me down a road that's not necessary, but it will make me thorough, and will make me aware of things that maybe other people wouldn't be aware of. I suppose the downside is that probably means I then start talking to somebody about something and theorising about it, as I did with, as I mentioned in the longer video about with Doctor Who. The last series, I theorised the whole way through it with lots of different bits of information. I was trying to pull all information together, so that it's like, where are these bits of information coming from? And Russell T Davies is very good at doing that. For anybody that likes Doctor Who, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it's that whole hook pulling me in and wanting me to theorise, because you've given me bits of information for me to put together. And I think this is one of those questions that kind of falls under that. It's just guised under this car number plates thing, which I think is a very male stereotypical autism profile question. So maybe rephrase again and look at the re-question, making this question different, if anybody was ever to listen to me about how they would do the Autism Quotient questionnaire. So thank you very much for listening to this. As always, if you could like, comment, share, subscribe, that'd be great. My biggest thing that I'd love people to do is comment, simply because I'd love long term for this to become a community where people talk to each other about things, where the comments are used for that, because for me, it's all about sharing information, and that's not just a one-way thing. That's also other people being involved in it. I'm hoping these videos will open up conversation. That's my long-term plan with things. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.